Hey everybody, KC here. So today on Morning Newsbeat, a conversation with David Katz, who is the founder and CEO of Plastic Bank. Now, Plastic Bank, I'm going to read to you directly from their website. Their idea is we can empower a regenerative society by collecting, recycling, and reprocessing ocean-bound plastic waste and supporting collector communities along the way. We can reduce our need for virgin plastic while creating lasting environmental, social, and economic impact. I found this conversation to be absolutely fascinating. He totally schooled me in terms of the situation we face as a planet, as a culture, a global culture. He explained what they're doing all over the world in terms of helping communities and families who are desperately in need of economic assistance and using this blockchain system to help them and simultaneously help the planet. My favorite part of the conversation, quite frankly, is when he yelled at me because I made a comment about saving the planet, and his point was we're not saving the planet. The planet will survive us. We're trying actually here to save humanity. It was, I thought, a really, really interesting conversation. And the bottom line is that what he's talking about is a powerful story that retailers and suppliers can use to communicate something really, really important, really, really authentic to their shoppers. One of the reasons I reached out to David was that he is one of the keynote speakers at this year's Organic Produce Summit in Monterey. It's going to take place in July. I'm looking forward to seeing him there. But I thought it was a message that really ought to be shared with the broader Morning Newsbeat universe. I'm glad he was willing to do it. So I hope you enjoy and learn from my conversation with Plastic Bank's David Katz. David Katz, welcome to Morning Newsbeat.
Thank you for having me on Morning Newsbeat.
Thrilled. So I would refer rather inelegantly, I suppose, to Plastic Bank as being sort of recycling on steroids, but I know that doesn't even begin to describe it. So give our audience the elevator pitch. What exactly is Plastic Bank?
Well, I can give an elevator pitch, or I can take you on a paradigm journey so you have a transformative idea.
I love paradigm journeys. Go ahead.
So paradigm journeys. Number one, if every piece of packaging that you saw, and let's give it a metaphor and call it every bottle. So if every packaging, every wrapper, every bottle, everything you saw, if every bottle that you saw was $5, how many would we see in the ocean or in the waste bin or in the environment? If you could easily exchange it for $5, we all know there would be none flowing into the ocean. Right. Everyone would be going to go get it.
Right.
So the paradigm there is it's not the material, it's us. It's the way we've been viewing the material.
Mm-hmm.
Important paradigm. Second paradigm with that is even if it was worth $5, unlike or just like walking over a field of diamonds, if you saw diamonds beneath your feet and you wanted to pick them up because you thought there was mass wealth, but you recognize simultaneously there was no bank you could take it to, no store you could spend them at. There was nothing that you could barter for diamonds with. They're diamonds, but to you, because there's no way to exchange them, they're worthless.
Right.
So even if every plastic bottle was $5, but there was no exchange methodology, they'd still be worthless. So ultimately, that's what Plastic Bank aims to solve, recognizing that 80% of the plastic entering marine ecosystems is coming from areas of extreme poverty. Well, in extreme poverty, of course, the poor don't throw money away. So how might we have the material look like it's diamonds and gold? And not just that, how do we create a localized infrastructure that helps reveal the material so that you can exchange it for the things you need the most, like school tuition, medical insurance, Wi-Fi, cooking fuel, cell phone minutes, water filtration, and everything else the emerging have always struggled to afford, now using materials that would otherwise flow into the ocean. So a higher level, we've created a monetary standard that reveals the inherent value in materials and treats them and trades them as a currency so that the world can use them as money.
And at some level, that mindset or that mentality exists in the sense that if you're in a poorer community, or maybe not even in a poorer community, you will often see homeless people or poor people who are collecting these bottles and bringing them in to get a nickel a piece.
Sure.
You have to cash in a lot for those nickels to add up to be anything significant.
Sure.
So what you're trying to, in essence, are you trying to just to raise that so it is a more significant?
Yeah, it's much more significant. We operate in the areas of extreme poverty. So areas where people are only making $1 a day, sustenance living. Like we started off in Haiti, and then we opened up in the Philippines and Indonesia, Brazil, Egypt. We're now Cameroon, Thailand, looking at the rest of North Africa, where people are living under the international poverty line, abject poverty, recognizing that it's those areas where plastic is flowing into the ocean because there is no waste management system. No one's coming by to pick up the garbage. No one's coming by to pick up recycling. That's unheard of. And so how do we create infrastructure in those locations? Now, it's not just the few pennies or dollars that people get. And we do have people that go from $1 a day to $6 a day. It's what you can get with the money that makes the big difference. Because in the exchange and in the methodology, it's transacted through a blockchain-based banking application. So when you collect and exchange the material, it's authenticated. The transaction provides the ability for our customers who buy the material, the authenticity, traceability, transparency. But for the collector community, it provides a sense of financial inclusion and that they get to have a credit worthiness score. So based on the frequency that they collect and return, they can easily substantiate the reliability, which is really what credit score is. Unavailable to the world's emerging for sure, where they are the ones that are afflicted by the 35+% interest rate loans of microfinance. And so here you have a chance to actually earn your sense of dignity, your worth, provide very low interest rate loans to people who are incredibly resourceful, and give them a chance to ascend poverty by cleaning the environment.
So it's aimed specifically as what we refer to in the U.S. as being the unbanked, right? People, and it's actually an enormous number of people in the United States who don't have bank accounts.
Set aside the United States, set aside the rest of the world. I mean, there's still 1 billion people that don't have access to food. So, set aside banking. So banking it's critically important.
So how did you build this in terms of developing the system that rewards or compensation for what they're doing? How did that come about?
Yeah, it's not only just cash, of course, immediately available for cash, which of course is incredibly important, and it's transacted through it's what we call a utility token. So it's in the blockchain, but it's not a cryptocurrency. It's just a transaction, identified transaction that already has a currency that backs it. So there's already like a bank account with money in it, and every time someone transacts through the system, the cash is already transferred into their account. So we make sure that our collector community has all that reliance that they need. So that I think is at the nucleus of it. But not just cash, but to go into a community and understand powerfully that the only real request that we get from parents whenever we walk a community of poverty, when you ask any parent, I've never really heard any other answer than, I just want my children to have an education. The only way that poverty will leave my family and the other children is if my kids learn how to read and go to school and ascend, which is why we have hundreds of schools as collection locations where the family can return the plastic to school. So we teach like the 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old kids to teach their parents that the plastic and the materials that come into their home have value and they're significant. And the parents are encouraged to then not throw it in the canal, not burn the material, not throw it in the ocean, but return it to school. You're walking your child to school, bring the recycling with you. And then at the school, once a week, it's weighed. That value goes into your account, value goes into the school account. And then often there are incentives to spend that money at school. So you might get 2 for 1, for instance. It might be worth double the value when you spend it on tuition, which is often the case. And then the school makes a little bit of money where they might buy extra books, provide greater teacher salaries and other things. So it makes a profound difference in the community.
Whatever, all your desks apparently are something that's a commodity that they a lot of poor communities. It's unheard of for kids to have desks.
It's unheard of in many of the places we operate that kids have toys. There's elementary school, like 5-year-olds with no toys. It's a 4x8 piece of plywood that we have a piece of chalk on the plywood. It's not even a chalkboard. Like there's so much work that needs to be done.
Yeah. How did you come to this? I mean, I was online, I was looking you up. your degrees from the British Columbia Institute of
Ah,
Technology. You were in hospitality
oh,
administration in
not
that.
that I have a high school education in the end. That's what that says. But I'm a lifelong learner. Like I'm always reading, always learning, always looking, always trying to, immerse myself in that that I don't yet know is holding me back. It's more of a personal journey, a spiritual journey of surrendering myself into everythingness. So it's like it's really more about what I put down,
Right.
right? And
Was
so
there
yeah,
was there
always
a
learning.
moment?
There was a moment.
Was there a
Mhm,
moment you said
mhm,
where this kind of
mhm.
crystallized for you?
So I've always been looking. I think that part of that story is that I grew up on the west coast of Canada. I grew up on an island, and I got to walk about a 500-meter beach to go to school. I took that beach route almost every day, and I began witnessing 35 years ago or so plastic showing up, like applicators and things. I'm like, oh my goodness, that's just garbage. Like at first we thought it was like, oh, it's beach combing. You're looking for things that are coming from some foreign location, and then ooh, no, it's just garbage. And that just began, I started seeing it. It's what you think about that you end up seeing, right? It's what you think about is what you see. And so I've just been thinking about it for a long time, and all of my travels and all the places that I would go to. It was always this powerful place where I was able to recognize and see the speed of degradation that was occurring. And so I've been looking and looking, and I've never really had a job. My previous business to this um, was in a field called telematics. We, back in 2000, developed GPS tracking for mobile workforce. A Department of National Defense became a customer. I was able to grow a business. I was acquired. But I was also, in that process, I became purposeless because I was able to grow a company that didn't require me. And I also felt that. I also knew that there was more calling in life than just money. I knew that there was more into the being of the time that I'm here on the earth. It was May the 9th, 2013, in that search for purpose and the search for solution, knowing that something had to be done about what was occurring in the ocean. Like something had to be done. Like it's irrefutable. Like we must be doing something about that. I mean, we risk our own extinction, that's for sure. And we are already at risk of our own extinction already. That's irrefutable. And I was attending an event at Singularity University, which is an event put on by Ray Kurzweil and Peter Diamandis, and great minds that bring great educators together for CEOs and executives that want to face the global grand challenges, those challenges that face humanity, the billions, the base billions. And it was during an additive manufacturing seminar. It was like this 3D printing seminar where I was able to witness the solid strand of plastic that changed shape through a heated nozzle and computer aid. The product that I ended up seeing was this belt that had been manufactured, and it was fluid. It had this 80s look to it. And knowing that it was a solid strand of plastic, I asked, I said, well, how much did that belt sell for? Like $80. Well, it was the material cost $10. And in that moment, what occurred for me was that it was not the belt, it was plastic. And the only thing that determined the additional $70 worth of value was the shape of the plastic. So it wasn't the plastic itself that gave its value. Like, oh my goodness, when we look at a bottle, the shape of it has been giving us the value. We look at that packaging as being worthless or free. And so if we could change the way we viewed it inside, then that might be a part of the solution. Because the whole world has this, external locus of control, thinking that it's outside there. It's not me, it's outside. The world is dictating what's happening to me. And the same thing is happening with that material resource, where we look at it and go, oh, it's worthless, where it's not. It's petroleum. Often when you're buying a bottle of soda or water or other things, you're paying way more for the bottle itself than you are for the contents.
Right.
But we've lost that paradigm where the material is of high value. And how then might I change the paradigm inside the person so that they then now look at the bottle differently? And that was back to that first, metaphor that plastic is money. And so how might I have you view that as something of just tremendous value, or it's never even considered anymore that you would throw it away? That's really what we're doing.
So, but you've had to build an infrastructure to collect this plastic. I mean, it's not right. I mean, I mean, the banking part of it and one part of it, but the physical collection of this plastic and then what happens with it from there. I mean, that's got to be in some ways more complicated than
super. Building a supply chain, global supply chain that's spanning the planet and returning material back into manufacturing. Lots going on. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's not been insurmountable because we've been able to accomplish it, which has been amazing. And it wasn't, of course, perfect at the outset. You know, I really live in the knowing that the perfect is the enemy of the good enough. And you've got to start, and we've got to create a space for the world to begin thing, and to not vilify that tries. We need to give more room, more space to people who are courageous. And that was it. And I just began.
Yeah. It's interesting. One of the things it was the story that just ran in the Wall Street Journal, and it was talking about brands, and they were specifically talking about Unilever, right? And basically Unilever saying, we want to assign cultural / social purpose to every one of our, we want every brand to be attached to some sort of social purpose.
Sure.
Some of it made sense, like Dove or Ben and Jerry's, and some of it was a stretch, and that they got a lot of, even though they maintain that brands that are connected to social cultural purposes, they said it would grow faster. In fact, that has not proven to be the case, and now they've had to sort of back off it a little bit. And one of the things you talk about on your website is that, is that brand value is measured by things other than just how much stuff you sell.
Of course, yeah. And I would never use Unilever as an example of good business by any means. Not at all. I would never even use them. I would never even be in the consideration of Unilever as a authentic brand of good. But so that's a different story.
Yeah,
and maybe they're not.
Well, that. Yeah, I mean, and I think that's part of the problem. Also,
correct.
Is that it does seem in some ways inauthentic.
You can still try to put lipstick on a pig. It's still
a pig.
Exactly.
But when you're talking to companies about getting involved in this enterprise, what kind of react? Because you're on your website, you're appealing to both individuals and to partner companies that you can partner with.
Correct.
So what kind of reaction are you getting from those companies?
Well, first off, we don't sell to people who don't want what we got. We don't sell to companies who just want to create some sort of BS story. We offer a place.
But they're looking to do greenwashing. You have
not at all. Yeah, exactly. Total huge. We had one of the world's largest private banking companies that I just said no to because they have a whole BS detector. So like, that's not going to work. We're trying to build something of authenticity for the world so that people can rely on change, which is super important today. And more of the next generation is really looking for regeneration. This is where we're going. And so it's really those organizations that want to ensure that they have the brightest and sharpest minds. They're having trouble hiring people today, like all businesses. And that next generation, the Greta generation, that is really going to be the next executive, they just went through the financial crisis, ocean acidification, marine debris, climate change, COVID, war. You've got an entire generation that's completely freaked out by all of the stuff that my generation, the older generations have created. And they're going to only give their business and work at places that actually do good in the world. They have the freedom to do that now. They're not buying new cars. They're not buying new clothes, vintage clothing. All of that is emerging powerfully. And so the companies that work with us understand that. And they understand that the blue ocean strategy in business is over investing in what will be and not what is. And what will be are brands who actually authentically create change in the world and repair the damage that's been done. Those companies are remarkable customers, like S.C. Johnson, who I'm super proud of. S.C. Johnson, Fitz Johnson, the family, truly taking S.C. Johnson, making the world better, right?
Well, it's funny you say that. Because I just printed out a story about from Bloomberg about S.C. Johnson, about how they were trying to figure out how to reduce the plastic Windex bottles. Big problem, right?
Yeah.
And they were addressing this 10 years ago and couldn't get traction on it. And what's most admirable about it is they're still working at it. I mean, they're still trying they're still trying to figure out how do we reduce that waste. Yeah,
they are. They're trying to make. I can't tell you that. Fitz Johnson has been I would hope that he be remembered as one of the greats, because he truly is taking that family business and making the world better. That is what he's doing. He's taking that company, taking what is derived as value from that, and trying to make the world better.
Yeah. Do you think
And that's, yeah. And he doesn't stop. I mean, that's the whole idea, right?
the and I sent you a copy of an article that I had just seen in the Tufts Observer, Tufts University Observer, by I thought a really smart piece by a young woman named about to graduate, Megan Smith. And one of her arguments in her piece, and I'm going to post this on Morning News because I think it's provocative, is that part of the problem is that capitalism, the benchmarks are all wrong for the modern world. That and I thought that was really smart. That as long as you have a constant need for expansion and growth that drives continued extraction of the Earth's resources for the realization of a profit, you know, the benchmarks are all wrong, and eventually you may make a lot of money, but you're gonna kill the planet.
Oh, no question.
And so those benchmarks have to be adjusted, and yet we're living in a system where there's, other than saving the planet, which you would think would be enough, the benchmarks, the reward system for companies that do the right thing just don't seem to be there, especially if you're a public company.
Yeah, you know, it's not climate change we need to worry about. It's business change. It's business that got us to where we are. And the paradigm of scarcity, where we think that we've got to extract from other for our own value, has to change, because there's a whole different paradigm and a whole different wealth from creating wealth for other people, from creating abundance for other people. When we're only extracting resources from the environment, from some paradigm that there's a scarcity and that we have to extract, then obviously it's not working. But there is a regenerative model. There are different ways of showing up. And so I agree with the entirety of the article. Things have to change for sure. And we still have to make the space for those who want to show up and at least start. And you know, what happens is that you've got these old stoic organizations that are publicly traded. You have a fiduciary duty of the CEO to you know, ensure shareholder profitability. You know, someone could be jailed if they do. So there's a lot going on. I mean, that's why I'm inspired by Danone, who went, you know, from public to public B Corp, so they could actually make decisions for the good of society, as opposed to just shareholders. There's lots that has to change.
Yeah. I mean, I know it's simplistic, but why do you think just saving the planet isn't enough? I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I've been doing this for 20 years on Morning News Beat, and
we're not saving the planet. Stop. Like, honestly, like, we're not saving the planet. The planet's going to be fine. Let's be honest. The planet, the ocean. Are you kidding me? Of course, it's going to be amazing. No question. I would absolutely, with 1,000% certainty, the sea is going to be teeming with life. No question. And the sky's alive. We're not going to be here. We won't be here. The Earth is going to be fine. This is a species. This is the extinction of the human species that's at risk. So it's not about saving the planet, it's about saving us. And forgive me, I resonate on that conversation. People talk about saving the planet all the time, and it's BS. They can't wait for us to be gone. Are you kidding me? We're a virus. And out of the 10 billion species that have ever existed on the planet, 10 billion species, we've been the only species that has ever evolved to a place where it could care for all other species. We're the only species that has the power to steward, love, care for all other species, and yet we go and hunt them, chop their head off, and put them on our wall. What right do we have? Please. So it's about us, everyone. And if we actually turned Earth Day and Oceans Day into Save Humanity Day, I bet you there'd be more than just one day a year. Anyway,
you can yell at me. It's okay. I don't mind being corrected at all. And I think that's a really fair point. It is inherently kind of culturally narcissistic to call it saving the planet, because when that's not what we're talking about.
No, it's not what we're talking about at all.
And yet, I mean, and it's fascinating, and you're right. And I wonder, and I've been doing this a long time, when I write about this stuff on Morning News Beat, even things like, you know, getting rid of single-use plastic bags in supermarkets, right? Sure. I can't tell you over the years how many emails I've gotten from people saying, "Oh, you're being ridiculous. It's not a big deal. You know, bringing cloth bags into the supermarket doesn't really affect anything. I use those plastic bags to pick up dog poop or in my garbage. It's much ado about nothing." And I've never really understood the just inherent resistance to the notion that maybe we're doing something wrong.
Well, the psychological law of exclusion. Psychological law of exclusion, it's someone else's ocean, it's someone else's planet. Nothing ever happens to me. No one ever thinks that they're going to get into a car accident. No one ever thinks anyone's going to break into their home. No one ever thinks that they're going to die prematurely. Psychological law of exclusion. So, oh, it doesn't pertain to me. Okay, but it does pertain to you. I know that you're choosing ignorance, and that's really beautiful. And then even when it comes back to single-use straws or materials or bags, at least it puts people into the process and it habituates people into the process of stewardship. So at least you seek a different alternative. At least it's a conversation about not using something that has a probability. At least it has, even if it's not a high probability where you live, it has a probability of being discarded in the environment improperly, where it could wound, maim, kill, and create degradation for generations. I'm also in the awareness that improperly discarded materials like bottle caps or other things that make their way into the bellies of a bird, where that bird dies because of the ingestion of the material, the corpse of that bird will degrade quickly, releasing that plastic to keep murdering. So it may not just murder. I mean, it's just about creating a paradigm of thought and consideration and a resource conservation or value conservation, just like the previous conversation. Like, when is it that we're going to stop extracting material resources for the environment for our own profitability? It's a part of that as well. And so it's about creating a different way of being in humanity. Like, really, that's what's going to extend humanity. That's what, if we look 1,000 years in the future, really, do we really see ourselves 1,000 years in the future taking material resources, using them improperly or without value, and then discarding them or throwing them into a hole in the ground? No, of course not. 1,000 years. Of course, we could look at this utopian place in the future where all material resources come into the home and are returned into circularity. Of course they are. They'll have to be. So you can try to refute it. You could try to resist it as much as you want. But what is going to be emerging is this word that we're using now, which is recycling, but regeneration, taking materials, regenerating them into opportunity. That's what's going to be emerging. If we're going to survive as a species, that's what's going to be unfolding. So you get to choose, stand on the right side of history or the wrong side of history. Okay. And it's not necessarily this generation, our generation. It may not be the next generation. It's the generation after them. They're the ones who are going to make the change. I just don't know if it's enough soon enough.
Well, I mean, everything I read, everybody keeps saying, boy, we are metaphorically speaking, flying a lot closer to the sun than we should be, in the sense of, and we're getting real close to the point where it will be almost impossible to undo the damage that has been done.
Our wings have begun to melt. That is the truth of it all.
So you're going to be speaking. Part of the reason we're talking today is because you're going to be speaking at the Organic Produce Summit in Monterey in July. They're going to have retailers there. You're going to have suppliers there. Excuse the train going on in the back. My backyard. What will be your message to them? Where can they help?
Well, anyone can help. It's not even I would be talking to a supplier. I'm talking to humans. So you can either be a part of the pollution, or you can be a part of the solution. That's what your chance is in history. You get to show up powerfully. I've got a quote that I live by, and it reads, "We have the opportunity to choose who our children's parents will be." Who will be your child's father? Who will be your child's mother? You get to choose. Oh, what? Like, hold on a second. If not for myself, for my children, I choose someone who's going to steward humanity, be compassionate, have foresight, stand and do the right thing. So that's what people get to do there. They get to stand on the right side of history and exhibit themselves, if their company is one of the most progressive organizations in the world, that will stand forward to lead others, to show the profitability in doing well, to show the profitability in serving society. That's what gets to occur there. And out of a collective, who knows what could occur? Who knows what could unfold when you take 1,500 people there that want to be in the power of change? It could be an origin of transformative opportunity for society.
But I want to push you on that a little bit, sure, in terms of being more specific. Okay, so there are going to be suppliers there who ship, organic fruits, vegetables, and they ship them out in plastic tins, and they go all over the country, and then they're sold by retailers in those plastic tins, and people bring them home. So what will be a concrete step that you would like them to take, that they can take, that will raise?
Yeah, a concrete step is to ensure that none of those clamshells, none of those packages are ever made from virgin plastic again. There's 10 trillion kilos of plastic on the earth. We're not a world without plastic. I mean, we're beyond that point. We're a world without waste. 10 trillion kilos of plastic are here. We make more every day. There's somewhere around 500 billion kilo made this year alone with the pandemic and everything else. Yet we still have 20 times the volume of the material that we need. What are we doing? It's infinitely recyclable, takes 1/10 of the carbon, takes 1/10 of the energy. We should be just recycling material. So what we get to do at that show is create an environment where people are either reducing the amount of material they're using, because we need to continue to put downward pressure on the use of the material, period. And if you have to use it because it has a lot of benefits, they're not using virgin content. They're using a material that actually helped to regenerate, was captured from the environment, helps us restore society, lifted society at the same time. So there's a lot of gift in all of it. At minimum, they get to be in the conversation. They get to at least be in the conversation with their suppliers, putting demand on their suppliers to do that. So if they're a grower and they're buying the material, they get to be in the place where they ask their suppliers, go find a material that's not killing the planet. Go find a package for me that I can be proud of. Go work on a solution for society, because the status quo won't work.
And to be clear, if we as a planet stop manufacturing virgin plastic tomorrow, there's more than enough plastic out there for what we need.
20 times.
20 times as much as what we need.
20 times.
Manufacturing it tomorrow.
Or more.
And so, and is there some sort of, let's take that, that fruit that fruit grower who's setting out those plastic things. Is there a concrete ROI you can point to? Because that's the question they're going to ask, right? Is it less expensive for them to do that? Is it more expensive for them to do that? And I'm not arguing money should be the bottom line, but money, let's face it, money is often the bottom line.
We communicated this in the earlier part of the show. Business has to change. And a couple of paradigms there. Society shouldn't have to pay for something. They shouldn't have to pay for something that doesn't kill the planet.
Right.
They shouldn't have to pay more to not die. They shouldn't have to pay more for birds and whales and everything else. And then really, when we're talking about it, you're adding maybe a fraction of a penny additional cost to something, big deal. It's not like double the price or something like that. It's a fraction.
That's all I'm asking.
Thanks. I'm only challenging. Thank you very much. I'm just so passionate. I'm like, no, what? There is no reason not to.
Well, because there will always be people.
Of course there will be.
Right? And and by the way, I think that if I go to the store and there's strawberries in a plastic container, and even if it says this container costs 5 cents, this product costs 5 cents more because this packaging has been regenerated, it's not virgin plastic, and by the way, here's a little QR code that will explain to you what we're doing.
Exactly.
You got me.
Right.
I mean, that to me is an easy one. I mean, that will, for me, and I think for an awful lot of people, especially younger people who have a sense of how badly their elders have screwed up the world, or trying to screw up the world, or trying to screw up humanity, not screw up the world.
Exactly.
I don't want to get yelled at again.
Yeah.
But I think young people would, by and large, would say, "Oh yeah, I'll spend the extra nickel."
Exactly.
Now, and there are arguments now. Oh, wait a minute, you got recession, you got inflation, that nobody can afford it. Recessions and inflation are temporary. There's something much longer.
Yes, there is. Yeah, exactly. And the great organizations understand that. I've been through it a number of times. And if they get the extra nickel for it, which they usually get much more for the same product, and it only costs them an extra few pennies, it gives them an opportunity to be more profitable by doing well. And it also gives a space for the retailer to participate in something powerful. And now our customers, one of the things they really get to powerfully benefit with is an entire retail engagement strategy. When we work with our customers to figure out how at the retail level, the retailer or the distributor of their product can make more money by choosing their product. So we give them a chance to engage with the consumer. And that is a very powerful brand proposition and gives everyone the ability to make more profit while giving the consumer a chance to make a better choice. We truly are win to the sixth power. It's win, 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 win. Even the plastic wins, it becomes new again. The retailer wins, the consumer wins, the brand wins, the ocean wins, our collectors win, we win. That's the beautiful power of regenerative business models. It's a place where everything and every transaction that occurs, things get better.
And it's a great story. And I think that's the thing, right? It's a great story. It's a narrative.
Yes,
there's
exactly.
Right. And I think that is both the challenge to me when I think about this stuff. It's both the challenge and the opportunity to industry, whether you're on the retail side or the supplier side, is understanding that this is an opportunity to tell a great story. They're not always that comfortable with that notion, but that's what it is. It's a narrative that people can buy into quite literally as well as figuratively.
It puts heart into something that was heartless. And that's a beautiful part. And it can be directed in a number of ways. Do you want to help more girls go to school? We can create programming that provides a space for more children or more girls to have an opportunity to access to education. Do you want to create female entrepreneurship? We can direct funds towards female entrepreneurship that grows and builds. Would you like more adult literacy so we can take people out of extreme poverty and give them a chance to change the world themselves? We can direct funds towards that. Would you like more technology in the hands of children around the world? We get to do that too. So there's all kinds of ways, and we can help. We would work with an organization and say, what's at your soul? What would you like to be in the world? Where would you like to create change? And then we'll use plastic as a sense of money to give that life, so that where we go and operate from your contribution, your partnership with us, we get to change the world the way you want it changed. And the way that it will be earned is that people will clean the environment.
Okay. People want to reach out to you. They want to find out more. What should they do?
Well, David at plasticbank.com, you're always welcome to reach out directly. Absolutely. Plasticbank.com, participate. No question. There's 1,000 ways to find me. Find me on LinkedIn, find me any which way you want. But more importantly, set all of that aside, because whoever's listening is a human, and we're a human to human business, not a business to business or business to consumer. It's human to human. And in human to human, I'm asking you as a human to go into any other retailer as well and ask the retailer and say, point out those things that are in your store that are packaged with regenerative packaging. Show me those things that are now making the world a better place, because those are the things that I want to buy. And if we all do that individually, it creates the demand at the retailer, because the brands don't serve us, they serve the retailer. The retailer serves us. Let's continue to build a movement where we ask the retailers to then ask brands. That's how the world will change. Know that you are the most powerful consumer group in history. We have infinite power in our hands. Do whatever you can to join the movement. Be a part of a revolution, a renaissance, a new way of thinking. We have to. We're at risk.
David, thank you so much for spending time with me today and for sharing this with our audience. I look forward to seeing you in Monterey at the Organic Produce Summit. And I wish you the best of luck. I think that, you're doing God's work here, man.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah.
All right. Take care.